Oh, okay. Sounds good. Oh, okay. There you go. Welcome to the Willows City Council regular meeting for May 9th, 2023. We stand and salute the flag. Williams, lead us, please. Stand, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Williams?
Here.
Councilmember Hopkinton?
Here.
Councilmember Hanson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Biden?
Here.
Mayor Thomas?
Here. Okay. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Okay, we'll move straight to number 5A, proclamation for National Poppy Day. Be accepted by the American Legion Auxiliary of the City of Willows. Proclamation for National Poppy Day. Whereas America is the land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers. And whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the battlefield. And whereas a nation of peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war. And whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars. And whereas the American Legion Auxiliary is pledged to remind America annually of this debt through the distribution of the memorial flowers. I therefore, Richard Thomas, Mayor of Willows, California, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as National Poppy Month and encourage all citizens to pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom by wearing the memorial poppy on the Friday before Memorial Day. In witness whereof, I hereby to set my hand and cause to be affixed the official seal of the City of Willows this 9th day of May 2023. And I understand, Carol, you're going to come and receive this proclamation?
And Becky's going to come with me.
Becky's going to come with you. Cool. By the way, they also have poppies, should you so desire to acquire one.
Oh, yes. I think we saw everybody that the one that came in late, and we got 1.5 back there.
Land of the free, home of the brave. Continue to appreciate your service. Which one do you look at?
I'm not sure. I look right between them.
Okay, now let me, if you want.
Come on, staff. Slide over there.
We don't follow.
Are you hiding from the background?
Oh, are they?
Oh, we
Oh,
got one more.
we don't want to spoil your
That's it.
photograph. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to say a word here.
Please do. Absolutely.
I just want to thank the mayor and the city council and staff for continually providing us with proclamations that we ask. It's important to recognize our servicemen and women,
Wouldn't hurt.
and by the proclamations that you do, they appreciate them. And I take and I copy them, and the DFW men and women get copies, and so does the auxiliary.
Well, we appreciate all you do.
Yeah, and so, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you guys.
Next on the item 5B, USDA grant-funded economic development project. Marty?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So Jody Salmons is here tonight to give a little presentation on the city's economic development webpage and some marketing collateral and videos and things like that were done. The city received 2 USDA rural development block grants prior to my appointment under the prior administration. One was for $75,000 and one was for, I believe, $95,000, and combined together they were to be used towards economic development efforts in the city. So this closes out the first grant, the 2020 grant, which resulted in the website and the collateral and the marketing items that Jody's going to go through right now with all of you. With that, I hand it over to Jody Salmons.
Thank you, Maureen.
Welcome.
Good evening, council. How are you? Good?
Very good.
Want some positive news here? Let's do some fun.
Absolutely.
This grant, the USDA Rural Business Development Grant, was approved by the council on April 14th, 20, applied for and awarded just as the pandemic hit. So at that time, we really couldn't predict the length of stay-at-home orders, business closures, and what was going to come at us next. So after a lot of time and a lot of staff turnover, I'm happy to say that we finally completed the planned work of this first grant. The required match was minimal by the city, $6,000, due to the city's budget condition. And USDA agreed with that match. And so they provided us $75,000. After some discussions with our economic development partners at 3 Core, North State Planning and Development Collective, some focus group work, we decided to concentrate on what we considered the low-hanging fruit here. What's available that we can start promoting now? And these were things that were obvious that would move the needle in the city. So we decided on the 4 focus areas that you see in your folder here. One being downtown Willows, increasing traffic there. We have lots of available space there and businesses that really could use a boost. The North Humboldt corridor, you have a lot of available properties there with I-5 frontage. The Basin Street Industrial Park, we had just finished the infrastructure project there, and there are a lot of available properties there. And then the 4th area was to really concentrate on manufacturing and processing, some secondary manufacturing because you have available space and you had new source material manufacturing businesses and a lot of readily available ag byproducts. So after we identified those four areas to focus on first, we quickly found out that we had no way to sell those. We had no marketing materials. And we would go to a conference or an event, for example, the ICSC, the International Council of Shopping Centers, to try to promote Willows, but we had our little packets with a staple in the corner trying to put together the most current information. So we knew that at least to get started, we needed some higher quality marketing materials. Things that would encourage people to look further, come visit, that sort of thing. And I want to make sure that I announce that this application was done by the City of Willows, primarily for the City of Willows, but it also focused on the southern part of the county, because we're all in this together. Whatever happens down here really affects the city. So that was included in the application. So I said the total grant award was $75,000. We spent $76,839.24. So we're pretty darn close to our original budget, even though it was 3 years later. The water supply assessment that was done for the Basin Street project was a required study in order to move that project forward. That was roughly half of the budget. $38,000 was spent on that. Okay, and we have that document. The other half was spent on the printed materials you see in front of you, the videos that are now on the website, and then the website update to include these new pages. So if anybody's looking to get more information about Willows, they can go to it. Let's stop right here and look at the website and the print materials. The staggered inserts have QR codes that will take you right to the videos. So if we're handing these out at a conference, somebody can take their phone, QR it, and go straight to the videos. So she's gonna show, there's a landing page for economic development now, and you'll notice that we also incorporated the Find Your Refuge marketing theme that Hilgard Mueller started with the street banners, so that we have a cohesive marketing approach. And there's just some basic information here. And then there are pages for each of the 4 focus areas. So if you wanted to go, you guys can look at this later, we won't take our time now. But if you wanted to go to the manufacturing and processing page, for example, you will find videos provided by our largest manufacturers and processors. And not every company has a video. But if they don't have a video and they want it to be included, we've put a link on the bottom where if you click on their logo, it'll take you right to their website. So if people want to know more about Romiano cheese, they can click that and go straight to Romiano's website. I think that also provides an opportunity to do the same for your downtown businesses. If they wanted to be further promoted, your recreation businesses, anything, you can keep adding to this. This is just the basic start platform. And the companies did provide that. I know there were some questions on why was this video put up? Well, it's in the southern part of the county. And it has an effect on the city of Willows. So I wanted just really short videos that really promoted the company and what they were about, culture, that sort of thing to share. Incorporating video is a really effective way to reach our potential investors, residents and visitors. It's kind of the now is video. So I'm hopeful that this will bring some more interest in the city. We were able to do this by using previously shot video and images of Willows. Every photo you see in this project was actually taken in Willows. There are no stock photos from, off the internet that really aren't your town. This is your town, period. We appreciated the open door welcome we got from downtown businesses when we went in to shoot. And, they all loved the idea of being put on video and being present on the city's website. Let's see. I think where do we go from here is a logical next step. A couple of council members met with our consultants from an I-5 feasibility study that's happening luckily at the same time this is. And their charge is to identify what kind of businesses fit here well, what works. And when they come back to us with that recommendation, then we will be shipping out these materials to those potential people. So that's kind of going to fit in here. That study is scheduled to be done either the end of June or July. So it's not a big wait for that. And then these folders also will be distributed at conferences and anybody requesting information, you can see that the left side is empty. There's a place for a business card. City Manager Brown can, insert whatever things fit the request that comes to the counter. That pretty much wraps up the first grant. And then we have already been approved is funding of $95,500. The breakdown on that second grant is $38,500 for technical assistance for conceptual drawings, architecture, and engineering. $19,000 for zoning, planning, and mapping services to help with those things. $14,500 for additional print and marketing items that we may need as we move through this process. $4,000 for travel to marketing events, which during COVID we had none, so that kind of stopped us in our tracks there. But and then another $19,500 for grant acquisition and technical assistance for focus group management and going after any other information that we may need to look for, that we might need to dig out. The match from the city on the second piece is $6,750 is what was approved. And that was approved by the council March 23rd, 21. USDA has been a great partner in extending these grants because of the COVID situation. So we would like to kind of get on with the next one if we want to make good use of those funds. In any kind of effort like this, there's a long list of thank yous. So if you'll indulge me just for a minute, I'll try to read these really quickly. It doesn't happen with just one person powering through this, but Chief Wayne Peabody, his vision, City Manager Brown, Community Development Director Piot, Planner Karen Mantelli, Tim Salisbury, Hilgard Mueller, Sound Engineers at Studio 129, Coastland Engineering, Councilman Gary Hansen and Councilman Larry Dominiguini for lending their voices to the videos. And if you haven't watched them, please go back and do that. Frank Marinello from Mason Street, Jerry Ewan from CalPlant, Chico Media Group, Creative Composition, Kim Volkov, graphic artist, and Robert Brunseville. It Starts Media for the downtown shoot. Anthony Patino from Matson and Ison Technology for helping us develop the web pages. Our partners at 3Core and North State Planning and Development Collective for their guidance and advice as we move through this. All of the downtown businesses, all of the manufacturers that provided video, and of course USDA for funding us and believing in this project and continuing to support us as we move forward. I have to tell you that the consultants that came for the I-5 study said your materials are way better than any other city we're studying right now, but it was good timing too, because we were able to finish this up just as they were coming into town. So I'd say the most difficult part of the project was coordination, because the QR codes had to go to the right web pages, that had to go on the printed material, so it was a little bit of an effort to try to balance everything and get everything in the right order, but I think we managed and got it done. So, questions?
Jody, my apologies, I think you probably mentioned it. I've got the homepage up on my computer right now. Where is this?
Economic development.
I'm sorry?
You're on the city's homepage?
Uh-huh.
Economic development,
So you
Okay.
go to departments.
under
Okay,
departments.
departments.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then that'll lead you to the other pages.
I was just wondering, because there's been so much work and it does promote our community, if we can't get that on the homepage, so that's the first thing that pops up.
I would say your website needs a total redesign anyway, which I don't know if it's in the,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just an honest opinion here, it's very crowded.
Okay.
and difficult to find things, but it's possible that you could move it and showcase it or however you need to do it. But I would definitely recommend continuing to build on that. Let's show what's great, We had a lot of video already in the can. I had done a shoot here in Willows in February. Actually, I took Chico Media Group out to do almond bloom shots and the grain spring, and let's take pictures when it's beautiful. We all know what August looks like. So let's do that. So we were able to pull a lot of that from previous shoots. A lot of good pretty things.
Jody, I was able to give these to the Chamber of Commerce of Willows so that they have them now, and also the Glenn County Business Association, Marlena's group, so they have them, and they are natural people who are doing outreach and trying to find people to come and build and grow our community. So that's one of the mechanisms, and they do have them now.
Right, great. And distribution is a big part of the next funding, because we're
They're in all hotels too.
Yeah, right.
So
Anybody that comes
rich people
through.
can see them.
There's been some industries that we've looked at, that might be a good fit here, that we're trying to evaluate their maps and see that they don't have any service here in this area in the northern Sacramento Valley. So let it be us,
Costco.
Let's create a few jobs and that sort of thing, so.
How many of these did you print?
1,000, I believe.
1,000?
Well, Jody, excellent work. Thank you very much for the presentation. And just like to thank you for a number of years, you've just been an outstanding partner, working hard and partnering with the city of Willows, working on economic development, and for not a lot of fanfare, very little fanfare, but behind the scenes doing a lot of work. So thank you very much for everything that you've done, you continue to do, and you've always been fantastic to work with. So.
That makes me think of, Gary, is that I would like to have information on the long history of economic development attempts for the city of Willows, back when we were part of TriCore, and when we had that James that ended up as the Chico City Chamber of Commerce manager. So that we have done this over the years, for at least 30 years that I'm aware of, and probably before. It'd be fun, not fun, educational, informative, and probably good guidance to see, what was done, what money was spent, what targets were identified, and what results were achieved that are measurable. And I do think that it would help us going forward to find out what we've done, and maybe to assess it in terms of if it didn't work, or if it did work, and then take the winners and run with the winners and move on.
Yeah, I agree, a lot of that, I was 12 years old, David, so I don't remember, but.
So was I.
And a lot of those people are in place, and that history is probably difficult to get to, but you're absolutely right. The biggest issue you face, well, you have two, and I'm gonna be extremely honest here. Number one is your population. You just don't meet the criteria for a lot of these places that we want to cite. You don't have enough, even though you have I-5 running through, you don't have enough resident population, which is also a problem for your schools. You know, because they don't have enough ADA to bring you the kind of funding and programs and activities they want to bring you either. And the second one is negative conversations that are on the front of the newspaper. Because if you bring a developer into town, they're always going to grab that newspaper and walk away, and then they don't come back. So that really plays on this. So no matter what I do, one step forward, all that negativity and not positive mindset about your town, it hurts you.
So our committee that meets on Mondays before city council meetings took that up. Casey's the chairman of that committee now, and one of the deliverables that we've identified is changing the public presentation of Willows to a positive, even if we have to make it up.
You got to start somewhere, and you got to start right away. You know, economic development is not a short-term game. It's a long-term game. And if you know, I know you guys are considering
30 years.
Yeah, your
30 years
budget.
we've been working.
Absolutely, absolutely. But your budget and issues like that are not, they're affected way down the road. They're not affected tomorrow, you know, and so, but you have to keep moving. You have to keep moving forward. So this is just a baseline. It's a start. It may not be perfect. It may not be what you want to see or your vision, but it's at least something that is professional, well done, positive, and something we can start with. Building block.
Well said, Jody, but you know, I encourage everyone to take a look at all the work you've done, because the photos and the video were quality work.
I have great partners that I can
Good job.
trust, and that's always a good thing, so. But thank you very much. Appreciate the project, appreciate it. My contract, I think, is done unless there's something you asked me to do, but at this point.
Well,
You
we
have-
appreciate your efforts. It does look really good stuff. Now we need to implement it, and that's one of the problems I think the city's run into in the past, is we have an idea, but how do we get it implemented and how do we put it to work for us? So we got another step forward.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, sir. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Jody.
Okay.
Okay, public comment and consent calendar forum. All matters on the consent calendar considered in one routine and are approved in one motion and vote unless council members or the city manager request the items to be removed for separate discussion and action. The individual person to address the city council regarding matters that are not already on the agenda or concerning the consent calendar items are invited to make oral comments up to 3 minutes at this time. Please address your comments to the mayor and the council members and not to staff or the audience. By state law, council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. If you have any documentation that you'd like us to receive, please present it to the fine folks over there or drop it by the city hall. Do we have any comments from the public at this time? Hearing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. We have register approval, minutes approval, merger and name change. Pleasure of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, made by Hanson, seconded by Williams. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Discussion and action calendar. All matters in this section of the agenda are discussed and will be acted on individually. Individuals wishing to address the city council concerning any of these items are invited to make oral comments up to 3 minutes at this time. Please address your comments to the mayor and council members. And a lot of this you just already heard. So, anybody have any comments that they'd like to bring forth at this time about our action calendar? You can always present when we get to the specific items. So let's move to 7A. Construction of the Cal Water connection. That would be Pia.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. On April 18th, we had a special council meeting where city staff and Cal Water staff presented give a presentation about the water system and our wells and the need to connect the two together. This has been in the works since 2014, and an approved parcel map, where there was a parcel map approved in 2018 to give or to dedicate a parcel to Cal Water for an eventual site for tanks and for filtration systems. Cal Water designed the improvements to their specifications, and it's the city's responsibility to construct put the infrastructure and connect the Cal Water line down to the south end of town where the 3 customers currently are using our water. The Gallagher bill, AB 850, allowed 3 cities, Willows and 2 other cities, to circumvent the normal study process that's laborious, takes a long time, and to commute or dedicate their small water systems over to the local water purveyor. And that sunsets on December 31st, 2023. And it's been extended for the last time. It was extended already one time by the legislature. The draft agreement that's in front of me today was drafted by the previous city attorney, and the recommendation of staff tonight is that you approve the city manager to sign the agreement after our current city attorney has a chance to review it, and then just to make any modifications that they think might be in our best interest. And so with that, I'll leave it to you for discussion.
Thank you. I noticed that I was always under the impression 2 wells were going to be given to Cal Water, but this is only 1. So
Correct.
retain the one most eastern well?
It's the most eastern well, correct. It's the one that's closer to Wilbur Ellis. That one is going to remain there with us, and then the other one is the one that we would be commuting over to Cal Water.
Council comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, thank you, Pat, for the run-up. I've been promoting getting out of the water business for several years now, many years. Cal Water is our water purveyor with the city of Willows, as we know. Cal Water is excellent at what they do, delivering water, delivering safe, good water. Our public works staff has done an admirable job maintaining and providing our 3 customers in South Willows with water services with the city-owned well. But it's the only city-owned well. We have 3 customers, right? Wilbur Ellis, Swift Trucking, and the Chevron station that well serves. The water main, 12-inch water main, was effectively installed to Harvest Drive, where Rumiano Cheese is now. And that's basically halfway to where we need to be at the southern city limits. That was done after many years of hard-fought effort on behalf of the city. It was very successful. So we've been internally discussing options and funding options on how we're going to get that water line, the 12-inch main installed for the second half, the roughly approximately half mile down to County Road 57, County Road 99 area at the southern city limits. And then COVID hit. So following COVID, the ARPA funds came in. Last year, as noted in the staff report, the previous city council authorized utilizing spending ARPA funds as indicated in the staff report for the project, which is a perfect fit for the ARPA funds. And I agree with that, and I also voted in favor of it. And I believe that was a unanimous decision. I believe, Jeff, if I'm mistaken, that
I believe you're correct.
unanimous decision, I believe in August of 2022, I believe, at a meeting by the city council. And Cal Water paid for the engineering, correct, John? Cal Water paid for the engineering, about $38,000, $39,000 approximately. and the city of Willows paid and conducted the design work, correct, John?
We actually paid for the surveying and they did the design.
Okay, they did the design, okay, rather than engineering and survey. So those funds have already been expended. This water main will promote future development of South Willows, and South Willows will develop. So it's a twofold win for the city. Actually, it's a threefold win. Financially, utilizing the ARPA funds, and this is a perfect fit and excellent use of ARPA fund money, in my opinion. But also to extend the water main for future development. And now, probably most importantly, from a fiscal standpoint, saving $1.5 to $2 million of city, precious city revenues down the road at our Cal Water, at our study session when Cal Water presented. We're under the gun of the chromium-6 issue that's not going away. Impacted because of the old chrome mine in the community of Chrome, southwest of here, in the foothills, as we all know, that the chromium is ultimately leached into water sources. And although we're within the allowable federal limits, as we know, a few years ago, the state of California Department of Public Health imposed stricter state limits on the allowable chromium-6 MCLs, which we were in violation of. So Cal Water moved forward and obtained funding internally and externally, and was able to ultimately outfit four of the seven Cal Water wells delivering water to the city of Willows and surrounding northeast Willows as well. Provide chromium-6 filtration on 4 wells at several $1 million. I won't say $8 or $9 million, but it was several $1 million. Or was it $12 million, John? Something like that.
I don't know, but there was a lot of zeros.
It's like $2.2 million a well.
Yeah, I thought it was about 1.5, it was about 2 million, a little over a well. You're right, Mr. Mayor. So, it doesn't make any sense for the city of Willows to be in the water business. This is our opportunity and our one shot to get out of the water business. Turn this system over to Cal Water, let them be the water purveyor, and let's get off the hook for a potential $2 million plus bill that's coming down the road to install chromium-6 filtration on a well that serves currently 3 customers. The well doesn't have the capacity that well does not have the capacity to ultimately serve major development if when it does come into the South Willows area. But this is just a positive plan all the way around, and will encourage development and get us off the financial hook for this chromium-6 issue. The chromium-6 issue is only under a court-ordered stay right now. It has not gone away, and it's for economic purposes stayed. That's all. And Willows is one of the very few communities that's affected by this chromium-6 issue currently. And we just need to, it'd be irresponsible of this council, in my opinion, if we don't move forward with this matter and approve this and ultimately get out of the water, complete this line and get out of the water business. And we've also have to keep in mind Assemblyman Gallagher with AB 850, which has been extended once, and it will sunset, as Pat indicated, on December 31st of this year. That's also a major financial reason, a second major financial reason for us to proceed with this matter and approve this tonight. And I implore my colleagues on the council to vote in favor of this matter tonight. I think it's from an economic standpoint, from a development standpoint, it's the right thing to do. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gary, that's good data. For the record, if I read the contract correctly, we are not relieved of chromium-6 liability relative to the water content going forward. It's in the contract that we are still liable in some fashion. And if that's not correct, please correct me. But I read it in there, so I hope I got that right. Number one.
That's one of the things that we want the new city attorney to review.
Very good. And then the other thing, because Gary's points are very well made, what I'd like to hear from you or anyone is in the words of folks sitting in the audience, as a resident of the city of Willows who pay more for water than the people around us do, especially Chico, how do they benefit? How does a citizen benefit today, tomorrow, and 2 years from now from this decision?
Well, I think that the biggest benefit is relieving ourselves of the liability from those wells. Because the cost to actually operate those wells appropriately, or to build the infrastructure to operate those appropriately, to staff those wells appropriately, and then to have the filtration and all of that appropriately is something that we can afford. And if we did go through, or if we just kick the can and we don't do anything now and we time out with the AB 850, then we're stuck with that liability. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that the liability of having chromium-6 in your water is actually much greater than the $500,000 it would cost to commute this over to Cal Water.
And if I could just add to that, as you all know, the water fund currently operates at a deficit, and it's, so we use general fund money in order to balance the budget in the water fund. And so if we had to move forward with some sort of treatment, because sooner or later this reprieve to treat chromium-6 is going to go away, that's going to hit the general fund as well.
So in essence, the citizens of Willows could look forward to not increased water rates based on keeping it versus letting it go away or giving it to Cal Water. Fair statement?
It wouldn't, if we kept it, it wouldn't increase their rates, but it may.
Mitigations would, the treatment that Marty
Yes,
talked about.
they would pay for it in another way.
Yeah.
Right.
Last question is since chromium, it was added to the water during a process that was carried out up in the city of Rome and other places, is that not going to time out at some point? Is the element going to diminish because it's no longer being injected or otherwise caused to go into the ground? It's stopped, right?
Yeah,
At some point, I would hope. I mean, if you have a big gas spill and you clean it all up, and eventually there's no effect of the gas spill. That's what I'm hoping. That's it. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Williams?
Oh, thank you, sir. Well, like a lot of you folks out there, I have a hard time giving city property away. I understand and I very much appreciate all the knowledge that Gary spoke about. I spoke to a supervisor with the Public Works down in Dixon, California. They're in I don't know, some of you was at our meeting, some of you weren't. But they are in a unique situation because half of their community is served by Cal Water. The other half is the city of Dixon provides their water. And, the gentleman I spoke with said that at this point, the city of Dixon has done nothing because by the time that the implementation time period, the judge, put a stay on it. So, they've still been in compliance because the 50 parts per billion is still a regulation until, that changes. He said that the city of Dixon really doesn't know what they plan on doing, if they plan on selling to Cal Water or whether they plan on still operating their own. He did say that there's been some different type of filtration systems that have been designed and that possibly at a considerably less amount of money than the system that we have currently in Willows. The Cal Water customers in Dixon, already had their system, upgraded, and they are filtering that out. As much as I, hate to say it, I think it is a financial benefit to the city of Willows. The only thing that concerns me is the fact that Cal Water is in business to make a profit. So they're not just going to, out of goodness of their heart, spend $1.5 million to put a filtration system on that well, that it won't affect our water rates. And that is something that, I would like an answer to.
Well, they did speak to that in their presentation. So they would actually not be ponying up the dough, so to speak, for that infrastructure. That would get passed on to the customers that would be hooking into it. So it would not be passed on to the citizens that are currently on the water system as it is right now. So it would get sort of spread out between all of the parcels that would be, all the future parcel owners that are in that south basin area.
So Pat, they're going to have a different rate structure than the rest of the city of Willows?
No, they'll have the same, it'll be the connection fee, so it'll be on the developer, and then eventually it'll trickle down to each parcel owner, but that will be done on an upfront cost, so it'll be part of the fees when they're doing construction, or their permit fees, but it won't be part of their ongoing bill.
Oh, wouldn't that stunt any type of growth out there? Because that's gonna have to be a pretty sizable fee to absorb $1 million or $1.5 million.
So it gets spread out, it would get spread out over all of the users eventually down in there. And it is a sizable fee, but there's a lot of infrastructure that has to go in. So if we don't install that line that goes down there, the developer would have to install that line eventually to Cal Water anyway. So whether we do this, install the line, so if we install the line, it relieves the developer from having to install that line. So we are giving a benefit to the future development of that area. But as Cal Water said in their presentation, they pass on all those costs to the customers for future development.
Okay. I apologize, I didn't come up with this question until just now.
That's okay.
Is there any prohibition from a developer if he's gonna put a big enough, development in for him to have his own water supply?
You mean if he has his own well?
Yeah, and supply his own homes, his own development.
Is that a question?
I don't think there's anything that prohibits it, but he would have to follow all the guidelines that the state has with respect to running that water system and making sure that he's providing safe water.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious because I know that the folks down there, the Chevron, Wilburellas, and Swift are in for an eye-opening bill when they get this new bill, if this does go through.
Well, so I was exploring this earlier today, John and I had this chat. When the water line is installed, it's going to run straight down, and it's going to connect into the system that they're already connected to. So they're not actually going to have to pay for the connection down there. They'll be separate. They'll be now a Cal Water customer, and they'll be paying the Cal Water rates.
And that's what I'm saying. They're paying a fraction. Like Marty said, we're running a deficit out there, and that was one of the things I was looking at. What they're paying. I think each one of those has 2 different separate meters. One for irrigation, one for inside their building, and just the meter charge, through Cal Water is a substantial amount of money. And so I think that they're probably not going to be too pleased.
They will, and we
Right.
intend to let them, if this is approved tonight, we'll start the conversation with them. We'll update them throughout the process so that they'll have plenty of time to get used to it.
So can I add something before you, Marty? Let's get right in. So first of all, as I understand it, in accounting, this is an asset development which will be depreciated over probably 35 years. Therefore, the cost on the B&L that would be recovered by rates will be far less than the total cost of the project. So I don't want to leave people with the impression that this project is going to produce an untenable bill for the people who will attach the water. That's not correct. It will not happen that way. And the next thing is, if we do something that allows a developer to get in for less money, as Jody knows, when we talked to those guys on the I-5, we had this animated conversation about infrastructure and the lack thereof. This is infrastructure. If we can produce infrastructure that causes a developer to plant a big something, revenue-generating asset down there, we win. Can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have no infrastructure. And anyway, just wanted to point that out because I don't think the cost factor is relevant as presented. It is what it will be.
The other issue to add to that is that in addition to the liability that we already talked about,
Right.
if for any reason the council decides not to move forward with this tonight or at a future meeting in the very near future, then we would really need to seriously have a conversation about having a 218 study because, as I said, it's operating at a deficit. We're using general fund monies to shore up the water fund, and it really is in the city's best interest, given what I've told you most recently about the general fund and the city's fiscal future, to do a 218 study and get the enterprise fund paying for itself so that the taxpayers of Willows are not subsidizing the water fund for 3 customers, which is, and that's going to be, for those 3 customers, that'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $10,000 a year per customer. So it's not gonna be, I mean, it's not gonna be pretty, no matter how you slice it and dice it to keep it for ourselves, whether it's for the 3 customers or for the general fund, how it hits the general fund, our treatment, all of those things.
So, the only other thing that concerns me is, Pat, if I heard you right, we want the new attorney, new firm to review the contract. I would be, willing to ask that we table this until the new firm has reviewed this, so that we don't get ourselves into a situation where, like with our solar panels, that we don't have the same problem. I know that our last firm reviewed it, but I would like the new firm to review it before we approve the city manager to sign an agreement. That's all I have, sir. At this point.
Yeah, so we had discussed an area of benefit, and we had our attorneys look at that option. For those of all of you who weren't back there, would mean we would attach some cost to those those parcels when they develop. So the developer wouldn't pay the entire amount, but they would pay their fair share of the amount. The memo came back pretty favorable to what we were asking. I wouldn't support this without that.
Okay, on that area of benefit, our new attorney did respond, since we're using ARPA money, and if we had an area of benefit in place, I understand that up until December 31 of 2006, we'd have to account for any money we collected under that and pay that. But I don't know if it gets paid back or reused in accordance with the rules of the original ARPA money. But after December 31, 2026, we don't have to account for it. So as development went on beyond 2026, that money could come back to us. And we could lump several of those things that need to be in there, because Cal Water indicated that we'd have to have a large cistern or water tank down there as well for water pressure and fire protection, I understood, eventually, as development comes up.
The other thing I wanted to mention about the area benefit, to avoid the reporting aspect that you just mentioned in ARPA, another possibility that we've talked about internally here is to look at using the ARPA funds for example, paying the sheriff's contract, because you can just do that with ARPA and be done with it, and then use general fund money. Just switch out the money you'd use for the sheriff and switch that out and use it for the water main instead, and then we wouldn't have to deal with the reporting aspects, because ARPA money can be used pretty much on anything, but we would then just leave a little less red tape for ourselves in terms of the reporting structure for the area benefits. Because you can, especially with public safety, you can just use the money like that straight away. So we could switch out the money we would use from the general fund to pay for the sheriff's contract, use it for the water main, and then just write a check with the ARPA money towards the sheriff's contract instead, if that makes sense. And I'm pretty confident we can do that, so I would add that on as an aspect of, the research and the city attorney's review of this contract to just confirm and verify, but I'm pretty sure that could be an option that might be more interesting to the council. And then certainly from a staff perspective in terms of reporting, it's a lot more interesting to not have to report.
You can understand that one.
Sounds like a secondary issue to the main issue here. So here's the deal, I've looked at this thing every which way I can, and my view is what's best for the citizens of Willows today, tomorrow, and down the road. And every way I look at this, the folks I've asked about it, the best thing for the citizens of Willows, in plain talk, not grants and funds and funny things, is to move forward. That's the only way this comes out when I do it. Is it a perfect deal? No. Perfect deal, Cal Water would build it and we just take the money and run, but they're not going to do that. So I do think that timing matters. I do think it's now. And frankly, I'm going to support the motion or the action as presented to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Vaughn's comments, and we also have to keep in mind AB 850, which sunsets December 31.
That's
so
correct.
The clock is ticking.
Yep.
And that just, if we fail to move forward in a timely fashion, that's going to be a larger cost, and a much larger cost down the road. So you've got cost implications on both sides of this. This is a positive thing for the city of Willows. It's a positive thing for future development, and it ensures that we won't be on the hook for a couple $1 million in future chromium-6 filtration as well.
Well, I have to smile a little bit because everybody's had a chance to speak, but when it goes to me, I get railroaded, so Mr. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, you're next. Go ahead.
Can I speak now? Thank you. One of the things that I think is critical mass, and we just had a presentation about what we need to do for economic development. And I would really like to see some kind of development on the northwest corner of 57 and 99. Have some ideas what that might look like, but we've got to have the infrastructure down there. So for me, it's pretty simple. We have the ARPA money. I would like to see have the attorney bless it. I'd like us to see if we could limit the liability of the chromium-6 from the closing date forward. Obviously, we're going to have that up to the date and turn it over, but I wouldn't want something to come back. And I don't know what the statute of limitations would be, if there is one, for how long we would hold that liability. Do you know, John?
It has to do with when the injury happens and not when the chromium is in the system necessarily. So generally it's 6 months after the injury occurs. They have to give notice to the municipality that they will bring suit and proceed from there. So 6 months is the
So 10 years from now, if I developed cancer because I drank water containing chromium-6 at the gas station down there, I could allege.
Not to the city, yeah.
Okay. Those are the big concerns. I'd like to explore the area benefit. I don't know enough about it yet to really understand the impacts it might have on future builders, developers. I mean, if we could limit and allocate what some of these development costs would be up front with an area benefit from the water line, maybe some recovery, but the water tank needs to be built, road infrastructure, whatever the case may be. I'd like to explore that, but I wouldn't want to tie my decision tonight on that because I'm in agreement that we just need to get this done. Would any members of the public like to share their thoughts? Recently retired?
Yes,
I understand.
Recently retired.
Glad to see you.
Did you retire? No kidding.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
April Fool's Day.
Best luck you never had.
We, or you guys, are concentrating on Chrome 6. Okay? You've got PFAS coming down, PFOS coming down. You know the state is going to keep regulating every other thing that comes in. So while you're concentrating on the chrome and the treatment and the cost, you've got to be looking that there's going to be much more expense treating the other stuff that the state is bringing on. PFAS, PFOs are down to parts per billion. Chrome is 6 or million. So if you decide to go ahead and try to keep this thing, down the road it's just going to be more expensive and it's going to cost the city a lot more money. And it basically can't afford it. You know?
Could you, I know everybody here knows you, but maybe somebody doesn't. Could you state your name and your former position? Please.
My name is Clifford Wade. I was with California Water Service for 33 years, 33 years.
Thank you.
So, but I'm recently retired. So.
And in other words you're referring to as PFAS and PFR is what?
That is a chemical that they used in pizza boxes, your aluminum cans, your vegetable cans, your shampoo. It was a agent that made everything flow easily. It does not go away. It stays in the water. Cal Water's already looking at a way to try to substitute for this stuff to get ahead of the state regulation that's coming. It's just everywhere. Anything that you get or do or use has got PFAS or PFOS in it.
Thank you.
And like Roseanne said, if it isn't one thing, it's another, and he's right.
That's awful, yeah, that's awful stuff.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask
Thank
you
you.
about plastics, if you didn't know. No, filter your water, please. Don't drink that water, it's awful for you. No matter how clean it is, or what the state regulates, it's worse than that, please.
Anybody else? Mr. Ross?
Thank you. Bill Ross, DOEDROSS. I wonder if you would briefly revisit the nature of the legal relationship between Cal Water and the city of Willows as allowed by the CPUC. The reason I'm asking the question is the phrase transfer of assets jumped out at me from reading the materials. And in trying to articulate it in a journalistic sense, you've got words like owner, operator. So Cal Water would be the owner and operator, but on an administrative chart, as I understand, through the CPUC, the city of Willows would be above Cal Water, since Cal Water is still subordinate in the CPUC allowability. So if there's a question I'm asking, it is that how long is the contract between the city of Willows and Cal Water? Like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? Thank you.
That's probably a good question, Doug. I know that it's been here since 23? Cal Water's been providing the city with water. And it's a franchise, is it not?
1921, I just heard.
1921. Give you Cliff. And it's under a franchise agreement, is it not?
Correct.
And is that renewed? And I have no clue.
It probably has an evergreen clause where to get out of it, you have to think way ahead and announce it.
Give notice.
Give notice 5 years or more ahead to be able to both parties to serve.
Yeah, so I think they're here to stay.
Say again, I'm sorry.
I think they're here to stay.
This is quite true. I thought I'd raise it as a theoretical and pragmatic question from the standpoint that if to clarify who is the owner and who is the operator in the context of the city of Willows still being above Cal Water on the administrative configuration of who is the owner and who is the operator. So there you have a theoretical question, and perhaps to further time.
Reality questions. We don't need any theoretical ones.
By the way, don't forget, Gary says we're getting out of the water business. So if we're getting out of it, then I don't know where our hook is.
Right, I'll just leave what I said right here.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
No other comments? Pleasure of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that.
You have another?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, is just to take, I know that the deadline is December. I'm just, I would like to see the new firm, give us their blessing on this so that we don't wind up into a issue like we did with the solar panels. So, I think it's going to be a unanimous vote, but I would like to have that, portion done before we approve any other movement forward.
John, I'm putting you on the spot here, if I may, as I'm told you're the contract guru. Have you had a chance to read this contract?
I have, yeah. And I would strengthen a couple portions of it. Generally, it's a good contract. It puts the city in a good position, but there are a couple places that I would probably clarify and strengthen the liability provision. For instance, I would make abundantly clear that that's being transferred to Cal Water going forward.
Okay.
But we've already said we're going to do that, so presumably what we do tonight doesn't prevent us from doing that in the final contract. Is that true?
Sure, yeah, it's true, yeah.
You can also, give the city manager the authority to work with the city attorney to tighten it up where it's appropriate to the benefit of the city and move forward with the contract from there. And if we have trouble negotiating those additional points, like Sean just pointed out, with Cal Water for some reason, we come back to the council under those circumstances.
But what would be the point in that? You know, I mean, what's the harm of, you know, waiting until we
Let's-
find
let's
out
try
whether
it.
they will accept the liability?
Here's an option that I'll throw out. The council still has one more final motion, or well, probably two, but, so if you approve this tonight and we give time to the city attorney, Public Works, we still have to put this out to bid. So we put this out to bid, and it's about a month that we'll put it out to bid, and then we have to come back to the council to get authorization to award it to a contractor. So in essence, no money gets spent, no contract to actually build anything gets done until the council says you can go forward and build it. And so one of the thoughts that occurred to me as you were talking about this, we've probably got 6 or 8 weeks before something comes back to the council for awarding it to a contractor anyway. So within that time, that may allow the city attorney's office to review it, provide any comments, changes, and have discussions with Cal Water. And if there's any issues at all, then the council, when it comes back to the council for approval of a construction contract, you can hold up on doing that. I mean, there's no commitment.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I'm good with that, as long as we have one more shot at this before we blindly get a contract signed.
And John, if I may, we'd like to see us approve this so you have authority and a strength in putting out an RFP, is that correct?
Correct. So the issue was, without the council looking at this agreement, we didn't want to go to the risk of putting it out to bid, awarding it, and building it, and not be in a position where the council's okay with this agreement. So the point tonight was to get everything before you, to talk about everything, and then that would allow us to begin the process to put it out to bid, to get bids in, to award that, and then get it constructed. But as I said, if you approve this tonight, you approve the agreement conceptually, give the city attorney a chance, but we still have to come back to the council to get the construction contract awarded.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move the resolution entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Willows, State of California, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Cal Water regarding the extension of a 12-inch water main and acquisition of the city's existing water system be adopted with the caveat to authorize the city manager and the city attorney to finalize the contract." Sean, is that
Good.
good enough? Okay.
Is that good? Very good, yeah, cool.
But actually, Gary, with that, is that it will come before the city council one last time for final approval.
It has to anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
just verifying, just to verify.
Yes.
Have a motion.
Second.
You second that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hanson, getting older here, seconded by Vice Mayor Hutton to approve the resolution as presented with caveat. Any further discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I just don't see the reason why we're not exploring this area of benefit. The citizens have subsidized private business in South Willows to God knows how much money already. The fact that we can still do this and perhaps get all of it back and then give some back to the city of Willows in forms of services and things they really want as it develops is a win-win for me. Maybe it doesn't look like it's gonna matter, but there's no way I can support it if we don't even look at that. I'm all for doing it, but I think we have a way out that actually helps the citizens of Willows too in the future when it does develop, and shouldn't hinder develop because we're spreading that cost out around everybody. That's all I
Well,
got.
I would agree with Casey. I think we do need to explore area of benefit. I think that's a separate matter because it would not affect just what's down there, but also pretty much everything from Harvest Drive south and even perhaps the stuff on the east side of 99. So we'd look at the whole area
Yeah.
and understand the benefit of it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, no, I wholeheartedly agree, but that's a side discussion
Right.
apart from this. And I want to thank our city engineer, John Weiner, for bringing that that concept up at our last meeting. Thank you very much, John. Very good information, and also thank our city attorney for following through and providing us, the council, with the background on that.
I think
Definitely
it's a
something
side
we need to.
discussion. It's either, for me, it's not, it's either we do it or we don't. I mean, that's not a side discussion, that's the sticking point.
Well, sure, we've got to move forward with this main first, and staff will work on the area benefit. Exactly.
Yeah, well,
That has no bearing on this decision
I don't
tonight.
vote yes on hopefully.
Well, that'll be the
Will.
council direction. I
That will be.
think we could address that, and we could put it on a subsequent agenda to explore an area of benefit for that area, because that would have to be agendized that way.
Absolutely. I agree with that, Mayor. It's a separate area of discussion, but something we need to do, definitely.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Williams,
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkinton,
No.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Biden,
Aye.
and Mayor Thomas.
Aye. Okay. Thank you for all of that information. Item 7B, Landscape and Lighting Assessment District Preliminary Engineer's Annual Report. John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Because there's 3 new council members since we've done this last year, I'm just going to be very brief but explain to the new council members generally what this is all about. There's something in the California Streets and Highways Code called the 1972 Act Landscape and Lighting Assessment District, and what it does is it allows cities, as new developments occur, to recover part of the cost or all of the costs associated with public street lights on public streets, as well as landscaping within public parcels. A lot of times that's adjacent to roadways. And the mechanism that they do that is called the 1972 Act Assessment District. And there's all kinds of rules and regulations that cities have to follow in order to collect those monies on an annual basis. And one of those is you have to, it's mandated that an engineer's report has to come back every year. And what that engineer's report does is it looks at the budget going forward and predicts what expenses we're going to have in this next year, as well as it looks at the balances of funds that have been collected in the past and those moving forward. And the intent of it is it's to balance out every year. Otherwise, if you collect too much money, you rebate it the next year. If you're short on money, you can go to a point of collecting more, but it's meant to balance out each and every year. And with each year, there's a 3-step process. The first one is you appoint the engineer, the assessment engineer, which you've already done, which was Coastline Civil Engineering. The second is tonight's meeting, which we actually deliver a preliminary engineer's report that outlines all the different expenses and the different zones and all kinds of details. And the third would be the final engineer's report, which will come before you in June. And at that meeting, there's also a public hearing that goes along with that. So in general, what this allows is we figure out what the costs are, we figure out how many parcels are within each district, you look at what benefit those parcels are getting, and the engineer's report describes how it's being spread to the different parcels, but ultimately, we take the costs associated in the engineer's report, deliver that to the county tax assessor's office, and it gets put on tax bills for folks that are within these special zones. So that's generally how lighting and landscaping assessment districts work. The city has taken advantage, and they formed a lighting and landscaping assessment district back in 2008, and that was associated with a subdivision called Birch Street Village. And in the engineer's report that was before you tonight, that's known as Zone A. And then what happens is as new developments occur, you can annex those into the existing lighting and landscaping assessment district. As a matter of fact, we did that when Walmart was constructed, and that was annexed into Zone B. And then as the Basin Street Commercial and Industrial Complex came online, we've annexed that into the assessment district as Zone C. So that's generally how it works. As I mentioned, tonight's report goes through a lot of the details associated with the expenditures and what's covered by each one of those zones. And the other thing I wanted to explain, as a zone comes in, and I'm just going to take, for an example, the Basin Street Industrial Commercial. Staff does an estimate based on what facilities, whether it's lighting or landscaping, what facilities have to be maintained, and we estimate conservatively how much it's going to cost to maintain those every year. And we set what's called a maximum assessment. So whatever your very first year that you set these for a new zone, that in essence sets the bar. It's almost like a high jump bar. You can't go above that without getting additional votes and approvals from the people that are benefiting from that particular zone. So there's maximum assessments, and then every year we come back, and as I said, we can fluctuate assessments based on monies received and costs and everything, but we can never go over that maximum assessment level without having to go back to a vote of the people. And one of the reasons why that has to be that way is because Proposition 218 was put in place. The other thing that in assessment districts that can be done is that maximum assessment that's established, if you want to make sure that you can keep up with inflation, that maximum has the ability to get adjusted by the CPI every year. So every year we come back in these engineers' reports and we say, gosh, the last year CPI went up X amount. So we're going to index that maximum assessment up so we make sure that we're continuing to keep up with inflation. And during this past year, the CPI has gone up 4.9%. So in the engineer's report tonight, what we're recommending is those maximum assessments be indexed up 4.9%. Now that doesn't mean that's what we're assessing all the parcels. That just means the bar that we can't go above in the future. All that to be said, with this year's engineer's report, there's 3 zones, Zone A, B, and C, and Zone A is proposed to be increasing by $38 per year per parcel. Zone B, which is Walmart, is going to increase $1,257 per unit that are within that zone, and Zone C will be increasing by $4,090 per year. All of those are underneath that maximum assessment that I just talked about. And the primary reason why these assessments are going up this year is because last year we found that we had collected or we had a lot of extra reserves that we were sitting on that we didn't need to be sitting on. So what we did is we used some of those reserves to offset the predicted assessments, so it kind of artificially lowered the assessments last year. And this process goes along every single year, so we are kind of self-adjusting. With this year, there's no real annual reserves that are available within Zones A and B. For Zone C, we are using some continued excess reserves, but they're a lesser amount than last year. So again, this gets adjusted every year. So what's being asked of the council tonight is you review the report, you provide us any comments that you would have or direct us to make any changes, and then you would adopt the attached resolution that's associated with that, or with tonight's council report. And what that does is actually sets the date for the final engineer report hearing in June. And at that hearing, we would have an actual public hearing. And if everything is okay, we would adopt that. And then sometime in July, we would transfer all the information over to the county tax collectors, which would go onto the tax rolls. That's a lot to be said and probably a lot to be digested, but I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions.
I have two. I see that we're collecting about $18,000 for landscape and weed abatement in those 3 different zones. Did that amount get credited to the Public Works Department?
Yeah, so what happens as Public Works crews work on, whether it be the landscaping at Birch Street Village or down by the Basin Street development, They track their time, and that time gets paid for out of the funds that are collected through this assessment district. Similarly, the lighting in Birch Street Village, the lights on North Airport Boulevard, are part of the signal in front of Walmart, and the lights down at the Basin Street development, all those lighting costs get paid for out of the proceeds from this assessment district as well.
Final question. It's probably not a big issue, but does tax default play a role in what you have to do as far as assessment? And so if you had a large number of parcels that went tax default?
Oh, gotcha. It would be delinquent property tax, because this is on the property tax bill.
So we would have to make up from the general fund while they're delinquent?
Yes.
Okay.
Or potentially not maintain the facilities. That's the other option.
Thank you. Questions of the council?
John, just for clarification, the 3 lights that are on North Airport Road, we maintain those, but we bill the Zone B for that, is that correct?
One of the line items in Zone B is street lighting costs, and it's the electric cost, the maintenance and the electric costs for those lights.
So when staff goes out there to troubleshoot and stuff like that, they track their time and bill it towards this assessment?
Correct.
Okay. And on the 2 street lights, they're on 162 and North Airport. Don't we have a contract with Caltrans? They do the maintenance on that?
The ones on Wood Street or 162, those are Caltrans maintained.
Okay.
We only maintain the ones on North Airport, and then I believe a quarter of the, one leg of the intersection. This assessment district pays for the lighting costs associated with one leg of that intersection, so it's a quarter of the street light costs.
Okay, because that was what I was just going to ask is that, that is billed to that zone?
Correct.
Okay. Is that new on the Zone C? I don't ever recall seeing that weed abatement of detention ponds on there.
No, that was when it was initially established in Zone C. One of the big issues, those detention ponds are big now, but they're even going to be bigger if that whole development goes through. And weed abatement is it's obviously a big issue that has to be taken care of. I mean, it's, by the time you add up those 2 detention ponds, it's acres. And those are public parcels where those detention ponds are. And those have to be publicly maintained, and they do benefit specifically that area.
Okay. All right. That's all I have at this time, sir.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank our city engineer, John Wanger, for a very thorough report, as always. And also thank you for the additional information, John. But also, just as, my comments, since I've been on the council, the assessment increases have always been very fiscally conservative, and in a number of years have not increased at all, especially for Zone A. And that's always been the goal of the city, and with Mr. Wagner's engineering reports, he always takes a very fiscally conservative approach, and these are the actual costs to maintain both Zone A, B, and C. So, thank you, John. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Leo, yeah, so I looked at this thing, and if anything that the city should provide to the citizens of Willows, street lighting would be high up there for me. The fact that our city streets are not well lit, it was the boundaries of the city itself. This is, I think, distressing, because I think it's one of the things we want to improve is the amount of lighting that's on the streets that make up the downtown and the residential Willows. I see this whole thing as a money grab. Somebody figured out how they could get money from somebody, so they came up with this plan to take money from these poor new people and charge them for their city lights. Could we get rid of this thing outright? And if we did, there would be no engineering reports required, which is the biggest expense of the whole process. But if we didn't do this at all, if we waived and told them they weren't going to be assessed, could we get rid of the engineering report requirement?
You could.
And that's a lot of money.
You would also take on the responsibility of paying for all the expenses associated with maintenance.
I think that's what you do for a city, is you provide lights.
But I think what this is all about, David, is that they don't want the cost to fall onto the shoulders of folks that's already been here. It's for new development. My daughter lives in Chico, and she has quite a few of these different development fees.
So how hard is it to do an engineering report year after year after year over lighting, indoor landscaping, and a piece of land? I mean, it can't cost $4,000 to do that. It just seems
Yeah.
like a money grab to me. So I'd like to get rid of it entirely and just not collect it.
The one thing I will point out is that, certainly everybody's hopes are that future development come in and the whole residential area that Basin Street owns or the commercial area, the whole area that we're talking about tonight. And I can tell you that I, as a consulting engineer, I actually do this for 4 different cities. Some of them have 6,000 or 7,000 parcels associated with them. And the bigger they get, obviously, the more, then the engineering costs become incidental. I mean, it's just a blip on the screen. The issue with establishing them that only have a very small number of parcels associated with it, as you pointed out, there are steps that we have to go through every year. We try to keep our costs down, but it's mandated by the Streets and Highways Code. If development like Basin Street Residential, and we added 400 to 500 parcels on there, I'm not going to say the engineering costs would be incidental, but they would be way, way, way lower because in essence we're doing the same thing, but with more parcels that it gets spread over. So, I just want to point that out. But you absolutely, the council has the ability to dissolve the district, and you wouldn't be required to do an engineer's report.
As a point of history, I was involved with the development of Birch Street from a title and escrow perspective. And Birch Street has a sound wall that needs to be, for the freeway, which needs to be maintained, from graffiti to the landscape alongside that for both sides. And that was one of the other impetuses, plus the streetlights.
Sounds like a developer cost to me.
Well, but it's an ongoing cost is the problem, and so there's multiple things within the state, Belarus and other options for covering the ongoing costs associated with that sound wall, as an example.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Just to clarify, the revenue for all 3 assessment districts is just under $35,000. If you eliminate the assessment district, that will hit the general fund. So the general fund will end up absorbing that roughly
Like I said, it's
$35,000.
a funding source.
Right, but we have
Should
some
call it
pressure
that.
on the general fund, as you all know,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I know, I understand.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, and furthermore, the ongoing maintenance costs and expenses do benefit the individuals that have purchased the property in those zones as well. And they bear the cost. And the Landscape and Lighting Act in 1972 covers that, and this is the approach that pretty much every city in the state of California follows for ongoing maintenance costs that can be astronomical. And as John pointed out, for the Zone C, Harvest Drive area, those are large detention ponds and a lot of weeds, especially this year. It's significant costs, as we've seen in the engineering report, just for basic maintenance. So, yeah, I think this is why there's an assessment, because it does benefit those property owners in these specific zones, and they share the burden of the cost. So those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Members of the public? Hearing none, pleasure to council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the resolution entitled, "A Resolution of Intention to Levy and Collect Annual Assessments Preliminary Approving the Engineering Report for Fiscal Year 2023-2024 for the City of Willows Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District, and setting the time and date of the public hearing pursuant to the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972 be adopted."
Second motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Williams, seconded by Councilman Hanson. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Hofke?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Biden?
No,
Mayor Thomas?
Yes. On to item 7C, future of the swimming pool ad hoc committee and other civic discussion. Not sure who's going to take the lead.
Sorry, it was me. Upped off the contract by mistake. So that the item that is before the council is regarding this swimming pool ad hoc committee. As you may recall, Mayor Thomas asked to establish an ad hoc committee to address city swimming pool issues back on January 10th. And then there was some internal discussion on the dais that night about considering a steering committee. It came back on January 24th. It was decided not to move forward with an appointed steering committee and leave it as a council ad hoc committee. And there were a few meetings that the ad hoc committee had, very successful meetings, and that translated into returning the project to city staff to implement and come up with a budget and start working on a scope of work to go out to bid and repair the swimming pool. And so we are currently working on that, and Pat will have an update a little later this evening on that. So it brings back, since the original action of the council on January 10th was to establish an ad hoc committee to deal with the swimming pool directly. It's been dealt with basically in the short term, and so the question is, does the council want to create a new ad hoc committee with a different purview and focus area, or just have council members as they prefer or see fit to have a sort of a town hall meeting, and then there doesn't have to be an agenda and it can be on whatever topics those council members want to participate in. Obviously, you can't be more than 2 council members at most holding a town hall meeting together, but that's another option to allow for more fluidity and various topics to be discussed without being confined to whatever the council approves at a council meeting like tonight. So those were a couple, or do nothing at all. There's that. So.
Well, I would refer to the 2 individuals that were appointed to that ad hoc committee.
Yeah, I'll take it. So we discussed this last night with the pool committee, whatever it's called. We discussed it last night with the group. We had about 10 or so, 12, 15, something like that. It's pretty much unanimous. We want to keep these meetings going. We're going to choose option 3, though, to discontinue ad hoc committee and just have more open town hall meetings, where we will meet fairly regularly as time allows in the same spot and continue to do good things as we see fit. But we encourage everybody to show up. We had some good direction last night to where everybody had homework. I gave everybody in the front row, I gave them homework. And as first they couldn't make it, or else I gave them homework. But we gave everybody homework, and we're pretty excited about it, the direction moving forward. So that's what we chose as a group, if that's all right with the rest of the council.
So you're talking about moving to town hall meetings?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take a moment to say thank you to the council members and everybody else that showed up at those meetings. I mean, engagement of council with the citizens and the citizens with the council and everything that's been moving forward. It's all been positive, and I thank each and every one of you for your efforts. I like the concept of moving forward and looking at continuing that engagement with the citizens and hearing what they have to say and making this city what it should be for everybody who lives here. So I'll stop here and pass that off to Councilmember Bodden.
Casey summarized perfectly. It was a wonderful experience. The pool will be open in June of 2024, and that's a big deal. And when we started, I don't think that was something we were wondering and hoping, but not. We made it, and it's still not done, but we will get there. And now he's chairman of the committee, our town hall meetings, and we had wonderful participation. They were given homework, which was to go make a list of the things that you would like to see changed, added, developed, whatever in Willows, and then we're going to bring those back, and Casey and the crew we're going to prioritize them and start working on what Casey called the low-hanging fruit, because that's result-oriented, and on the bigger, longer projects that are going on. So it was a pleasure to see city government, the council, the citizens act positively with energy to get something done good for everyone. It was great. And it's just started, right?
Just started, so just getting started. We have probably not this next one in 2 weeks, but about a month from now, we're gonna have, not fully confirmed, but pretty much 99%. Have representatives from the Boys and Girls Club come and give us a good presentation, but they all but announced they want to be here in Willows. We're just working on a feasibility study, so we're going to find out where our group fits in there. And they already have places to operate, which would be the high school. So they're ready to go. They just got to make sure it's feasible here in Willows, and us as a community can go a long way in making that happen. So we have a Facebook page and people running that, so just please keep aware, and we'll try to share it far and wide. And the more community engagement, the better, because, you know, we all have different experiences. Growing up here is pretty small, so we kind of have the same, but we have different experiences within that experience, right? So we all need to know what's good for the community and what we can, like I said, there's probably some things we can do right away, right, just on our own, and there's probably some things that are gonna take many years, but we can still do. But we need to know where the community wants to go, because we're just 5 guys up here with different experiences than you had, so. I just encourage everybody to come, it's pretty exciting, and we talk, a lot of good talk.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank Councilmember Hoffman and Vice Mayor Bogdan for your work on the swimming pool subcommittee. Very good job. You've completed your task, and the pool, will be repaired and in operation in the very near future. So thank you very much for that work, and also the community members who've attended also and been involved. Casey, I absolutely agree with the recommendation to discontinue and move on. The two of you conducting town halls with whatever approach you'd like to take, without the burdens of a committee assignment and any other issues. I think that would have been my recommendation as well. So I agree. So thanks again.
Yep. Well, because I am last, I'll also say I'll echo the same sentiments that the mayor and Councilman Hanson said. Appreciate all the work that the public has put into this, and our 2 council members that are on the ad hoc. It's good to see something moving forward, and I think that because we've allowed the public to have a part in this, it means a lot more to our community. Instead of us making a decision or staff making the decision, we're making a decision as a community. So thank you guys very much, and you folks as well.
We don't need to do anything formal here.
No, we don't.
Just the general consensus is the ad hoc has been successful, and now we're into a town hall.
And the next meeting is the Monday before the next city council meeting. Every Monday before the city council meetings.
Okay.
Outstanding, okay. Item D, library board vacancy and appointment process. I recommend appoint 2 council members to serve on the library board trustees subcommittee. Proposed schedule process to recommend 3 library trustees. We have 3 vacancies.
That is my understanding, yes. The terms expire on June 30th for the 3 board members, Linso, Andrzej Kubak, and Dan Gupton.
Jeff, you're on the library.
I am, sorry.
And
I would ask.
Who else is on that?
Oh my goodness. Caitlin, help me out here.
She sent that to me, I have that.
I apologize. I can get it in a second, but.
Already, Brandon is on the board.
That's
right.
Lynn, so.
Dan Gupton.
And Lynn's on the list though.
Yeah.
And who's the 5th one? My goodness.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, I apologize. It escapes me.
Well, who would like to work on that subcommittee?
I would like to, because I am on the library board as a liaison with the city, so it
Makes sense.
David?
Sure. Is it a lot of work?
No.
I'm really lazy.
No. No. I just got to put up with you though.
It'll be fun.
Yes, it will.
We'll appoint Council Member Williams and Vice Mayor Bogdan to that.
Thank you, sir.
Lisa Kennedy is the last one.
Yep. Thank you very much. Sorry, Lisa.
So we'll move forward with advertising for the vacancies and accepting applications, and then the proposed staff report is the proposal in the staff report is to conduct applicant interviews on June 21st and June 22nd. So I'm assuming, is that okay with the subcommittee?
Just want to give a few.
Yeah.
Okay. City Council.
Just, pardon me, Mr. Mayor, let me look. We just have doctor's appointments in the general area. You said what dates again?
June 21st and June 22nd. You might not need 2 days, but.
And, no, it should be good. Now, there is a library board meeting on the 22nd between 11 and 12.
Okay, well, we'll try to make them all for the 21st, I guess, then maybe we could do the swearing in on the 22nd.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that for you there, sir.
Well, that's good.
that trip with the lake is right after that, so.
All right. City Council correspondence. I just received a letter. I have not had a chance yet to read it from John Johnson. I'll report back.
Mr. Mayor, what did you say the last name was?
John Johnson.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I think it has to do with his father spoke to the Monday Afternoon Club, and I understand the Monday Afternoon Club is trying to regenerate itself, so we would love to see that happen. That's all I have for correspondence at the moment. Anybody else?
Did you go to LAFCO?
Yes. That's under council comments,
Okay.
not correspondence. City manager's report.
Very quickly, before I hand it over to Pat for an update on the progress with the repairs to the swimming pool, just a quick reminder for everybody that Monday, May 22nd, sorry, it conflicts with the next town hall meeting, is a special budget meeting, and Andy Heath will be here to present the draft budget, first real draft budget for next fiscal year. And then at 6 o'clock, the 22nd, and then again, we have a regular council meeting on May 23rd as well on Tuesday, so.
We'll figure it out.
Yep, we'll figure it out.
Okay, great.
So John is still working on or he's working on getting a designer to do a scope of work for us for the pool. So we talked about this at the last pool meeting that I attended. And I don't know if everyone understands, I just want to explain why we're using a designer rather than a design build. Because if we go with a design build, we're not getting an apples to apples quote on the back end, on the project, on the construction part. Because the designer will spec out how thick the gunite will be, how much concrete is going to be replaced, how much the fiberglass has to come out, the size of the pumps, the chlorinator and all of that. And if we leave it up if we put out a bid for design build and we get something back, each thing we get back, it's difficult to measure those apples to apples. Because then you have to look at every single item and then you have to mitigate out, up and down. Is one company putting in 3/8 inch gunite, is another one doing 3/4 inch? So they could be all over the place, the costs can be all over the place. So we're looking for a designer that will give us a scope of work, that will give us a nice tight bid so that we can go out to get construction costs. This isn't eating to our time, we're still comfortable with getting the pool open by the summer of 2024. Yep, I know that's important. And then I thought I would give a little update on the grant that Nate has been going after. And we are, they extended the deadline for submitting the grant from the 31st of May to the 31st of April to the 31st of May. So it gave us a little bit of time. As we're looking at that towards the end, we were ready to submit for what we had, but I noticed that we could probably get some extra points if we do some sort of sustainability elements into the park. And so we found a way that we can do, we can kind of merge two things that the pool committee has been talking about, and that's putting a roof over the bathrooms and the little building that's at the pool. So right now there isn't a roof and there isn't one in the plans, but it's open to the open air, and the sort of tarps or sails that have been put over there in the past, they don't last very long and they don't provide much of a cover. And those seats, the toilets are stainless steel, so apparently they're not so fun to sit on in the summertime. So we'll put a roof over the top of it. Well, what I'm applying for, adding into this grant, is a roof that would go over the top of the bathrooms that would actually be solar panels. So we may not actually build a roof, we might just put an armature to hold solar panels, but that would provide a cover over the top of that bathroom. We're also looking at doing solar panels, kind of a pergola type of thing on that pad on the south end of the pool that used to be, as I understand, the old snack bar from way back when. And so it provides some shade for people to sit there, but also more solar panels. And then perhaps over the pergola that's on the north side of the pool, So the idea is that if we get enough solar panels, they're there, even though we're into NEM 3, but we should be able to run the pumps and, a heater, potentially extend the swim season each summer. So, and then the other idea that I had was to put to take out some sod or some turf that's around the track in the corners where lawn is not maybe necessarily useful for people to picnic or to play. And that would have another, it would also give us the benefit of lower water costs and less maintenance in those corners. So that is what we're shooting for this month. John is working for me for costs for all of these things that I just spoke about, and then we'll be submitting that here at the end of the month, just a couple weeks. So fingers crossed that they don't announce the, as we mentioned once before, they won't announce who's getting the awards until September. And it is really competitive, but we figured we'd swing for the fence, try to go for closer to the whole $5 million that we could potentially get. So,
Think big.
think big.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you.
3 to 5 years.
Thank you. City council comments and reports. I will look to you since you had to go last.
Oh, okay, well, thank you, sir. Well, on April 26th, I attended, along with Vice Mayor Bodden, the I-5 feasibility study. On the 27th, Gary, you was the only one that wasn't able to make the tour of the new courthouse with the new facility, excuse me, which is, they've tried maintaining as much of the old courthouse, some of the windows, the doors. I mean, when the public gets the chance to take the tour, and hopefully not for any other reason other than taking the tour, it's really, really nice. The state has, spent a substantial amount of money on that new facility and the old one. And the only other thing that I have, sir, is that on the April 11th meeting, I had asked to pull the check register, and I had asked that we had a review and discussion of travel charges for per diem. So tonight, and unfortunately that didn't get put on the agenda, so I would again tonight ask that on the next agenda that we get a list of all travel and all expenses that involve the travel for the current fiscal year be placed on the agenda for the next agenda, please.
That would be fine. You think the finance committee should first have a conversation about that?
Well, that's you and me, so I'm more than happy to.
Okay, so that's
So we'll put it on the agenda, though?
we can do that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Casey?
Yeah, so I haven't done much extra besides go on a really cool courthouse tour. Again, super cool. Roof is super cool. We got to go on the roof. Got to see all the willows, which is very nice. It's the very highest spot, I guess you can probably find. Awesome. About a week ago, we went to the Boys and Girls Club annual dinner. It's kind of a thank you dinner. I had the opportunity to donate to the Hamilton City project, or whatever it's called, the Hamilton City group, through Amazon, where I work a couple times. And they basically announced that they were trying to come to Willows. I would encourage everybody to look into it before, if you guys want to attend that next meeting we're going to have with them. I thought Boys and Girls Club, they just kind of threw everybody in the gym and let them play after school or something. But they do so much more. The STEM projects and everything. I sponsored through Amazon five families for Christmas that they did. They were able to sponsor, I think, 30 families in Hamilton City, and they serve something like 200 something kids in Hamilton City now, which is, Hamilton City is not a very big place, right? So it's hard for families nowadays to provide for their children, let alone any extras and any extra, advantages you might not get in regular public school. Like I said, I think baseball's like $100 now. A lot of people can't afford that for their kids to do something. The Boys and Girls Club steps up, but they do need a funding source. They don't have a big funding arm or anything like that. They kind of rely on the local community, and it's not that much to actually to sustain them yearly, but they do ask for 5 or so year commitments from people. So we really need to rally together to at least hear them and get some community support and the things they'll be able to do for the youth of Willows. And I think it's a really great thing for our community at a very low or no cost to the city, but to the community, they need our support.
Thank you, Casey. Gary?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, first off, I'd like to extend my apologies to the city council for not being able to make the courthouse tour. I've been in contact, I had the farming commitments that it's that time of year, especially with the strange weather we've had, kind of up against the wall. And I contacted Judge Bird, and he's offered me a tour of the building. Over the past several decades, I've spent a lot of time in that building, that old courthouse building, and I really look forward to a tour. So I'm sorry I couldn't make the tour with you gentlemen. I just got commitments. But yesterday, of note, the most important, significant report item I have is yesterday I attended our monthly regular Glen Groundwater Authority board meeting. And our board meetings are, very effective. We get a lot of business done. They typically go as long, if not longer, than our city council meetings here go. Typically, it's oftentimes 3 hours or more, as was the case yesterday, but there's just a lot of business going on. The two major items, other than the routine business, we're still working on our groundwater sustainability plan fee implementation project, Proposition 218 matter moving forward. And we did, after extensive discussion and several meetings and just a lot of work and research, also involving not only the board but our consultants, we have agreed as a board to move forward with an irrigated, non-irrigated charge approach. Right now we're on a current per acre fee. The assessment is currently $1.50 an acre, although we're authorized at the ceiling at $1.93 per acre. So all property owners within the Glen County portion of the Calusa subbasin pay $1.50 an acre at this point. We're going to move away from that. It's a good plan. It's a simplified plan, and it's a very cost-effective plan. However, there have been some dry land and livestock operators in the western boundaries of the basin in the foothill areas who don't utilize irrigation or oftentimes only have stock wells. And the livestock business is much different than valley farming as well, from a cost approach basis. So different farming operations, different needs. So in order to be completely fair with those individuals on the west side of our subbasin, we've agreed to a non-irrigated and an irrigated surface water and an irrigated groundwater approach. In other words, for non-irrigated, one fee; for irrigated land that uses surface water, a higher fee; and for irrigated land that uses groundwater, a slightly higher fee on top of that. That's going back to our ad hoc technical committee for further work with our consultant, and the final product will be discussed at our next board meeting. But moving forward, currently this will change, but currently as it stands, the proposed fee at the highest ceiling would be $1.02 per non-irrigated acre, $3.19 per irrigated acre which utilizes surface water, which would be primarily water from irrigation districts, and an assessment per acre of $3.86 for irrigated ground that utilizes groundwater. Again, these numbers will change. The non-irrigated fees will probably go down, and the surface water and groundwater fees will probably go up, recommendations, but we're moving forward. And lastly, the Board of Supervisors, county staff have been working diligently on a draft Glen County water well drilling standards ordinance. It's come before the Groundwater Authority at least twice for believe probably 3 times for discussion and feedback and analysis, and I have also provided feedback. And the requested changes that I wanted were, Grant Carmen saw to it that those changes were made, so I'm very much appreciative to him for making those changes, which were necessary. The current draft ordinance looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but we need to do something to protect and preserve our groundwater. And I would, Mr. Mayor, if this could even be part of the consent calendar, I'd like to bring forward the draft ordinance at the next meeting just for council review and possible council discussion input if you see fit. It would probably be fit to have it on the consent calendar or wherever you determine it would be fit for the agenda.
Consent calendar.
It is a draft ordinance. Still in draft form. It's been reviewed by county council, but it needs to be reviewed by expert water council, which the county does not have on staff. So that's moving forward. There's still discussion, and they're still taking, receiving input on it, also from the Farm Bureau and farmers and ranchers and all citizens. So moving forward, and that's all I have to report. Thank you, Mr.
I have a
Mayor.
quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Because currently for the groundwater, the city of Willows pays $1.50.
Yes.
What is our new fee?
Oh, it has not been established yet. No,
It's not $1.02?
No. I threw out the
Who wants to
proposal.
go down, Gary?
Well, I do too. It's not going to go down,
Yeah, so the city.
unfortunately.
Willows pays for the acreage within the city boundaries.
Yes.
Because it would be far too difficult for us to parcel out $1.50 an acre to all of our 6,000 square foot lots, or those that are 50 by 75. It would just be far too difficult.
City of Williams does the same thing.
So-
Cities of Williams and Willows do the same thing. Yeah. The administrative costs would be overburdening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Councilman, Vice Mayor Vlad.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor and a privilege each time I get to participate in these activities, particularly the committee that Casey and I and the folks that have worked on that over the time we've been alive and working it. And they've come and they've gone. There's a really good cross-section of the community, all with the same goal of a better tomorrow for Willows and the people who live here. So that's good. The meeting with the I-5 people was fun. We did have fun with that, and the guys on the end were having a good time talk about infrastructure and of course economic engines and what drives the economies, which I think is foot traffic. And so that was kind of neat. And then, of course, I write this column in the paper called Life, the Trials and Tribulations of a Rookie Councilman. The purpose of that is to build goodwill and friendship, to send a message of positivity about the functionality of what we do and about the many, many blessings and benefits that the people of Willows have. And concentrating on counting those and identifying those and repeating those has an effect on the way people think. And it will become that reality if we think about it long enough and keep putting it out there. So did miss the LAFCO meeting on Monday, but I'm sure Rick will tell us all that happened.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. I did attend the LAFCO meeting on Monday. They finalized the budget, and there was no changes to the numbers that I previously reported, 10,000, or was it 9,000? Can't remember what the number was.
I don't remember off the top of my head,
But
I'm sorry.
it did not change in the final budget.
Right.
The final budget was actually based, similar to what John was talking about. There was some excess reserves, so it lowered the cost to both the city of Orland, the city of Willows, and the county. I had a ride-along with Natisa from our Public Works. I found that to be very, very informative. She took me around and showed me where all of our sewer lift stations were. Told me all about what she has to do with clearing those lift stations, including those that are in northeast Willows and the problems they've been having over there. She also showed me all the various vacant land that the city actually owns. I was surprised to see some of the lots that we did own. One of them was a pretty tiny piece between two parcels. It looks like it was going to ultimately be an extension of the street. But the thing that she showed me was Butte and French. There's a corner lot there that's vacant and belongs to the city. It's got water, sewer connection too, I would assume. Her suggestion was a great spot for a dog park and maybe basketball. And I know we have nothing north of Wood Street that's actually a city park. So
I think that's 2 parcels, isn't it?
it's actually 3.
It's three.
3?
It's actually 3 parcels, so I would toss that to the town hall committee to drive by, take a look at it, and see if that might be an opportunity for something north of town. French, yeah. And it's actually would probably be a good place for a dog park, a place for them to walk their dog, and maybe basketball court or pickleball court or something else. I really don't know, but I'll just throw that out.
Put it on your list.
Briefly talked with Marty about it, and the city was kind of in agreement that there might be an opportunity for that. We also own a couple, what looks like a vacant residential lot. And then we did some real fun stuff. We went out to the sewer plant. And I got to drive around the sewer plant and experience the ponds and what they have to do, and the maintenance of that, and how they clear solids like toilet paper and wipes and all the other things from the sewer. And it was, I would recommend the council consider doing this, because it's an eye-opener as to learn what our public works do, and it takes them, I can't remember what she said, to mow the lawns. I think it takes them 2 days.
2 days.
2 days just to mow the grass in the city. And that would be like every 10 days. So for 3 days or 6 days a month, they're out riding a lawnmower. So, and then the street sweeper runs, and they try to keep things clean for various functions. So it was very much an eye-opener. I very much appreciated it, and that was good. So area of benefit, I'd like to see that on a future agenda. It doesn't necessarily need to be the next meeting, but I think we need to look into how that would be. Probably would require some research from staff, or maybe even Carolyn or Sean. And last but not least, our vice mayor here has a birthday tomorrow. And that hair of his is gray and white, and because he's old. So happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much.
And with that, I have nothing further.
I'm not old.
Oh, okay.
Okay. With that, I will close the public meeting. We're going to